Beware Two-Toed Tom by AustinDR. Beware the legend of Two-Toed Tom. Many people in my neck of the woods knew the story and feared the threat he entailed. Old Two-Toed Tom was a wicked devil who was cast down with Satan, deep into the darkest pits of hell's bowels. He came to our town not too long after, his eyes burning a glowing red from the fire and brimstone. He arrived when a massive earthquake shook our town, the last major shuffling occurring in 1931. Two-Toed Tom took roost in our town's swamp, saying with a loud voice,
"I have made this town my domain, and the people my footstool."
Overnight, tons of the town's livestock disappeared. Trails of blood were left to which townspeople followed to the swamp. Two-Toed Tom would glut himself on the flesh and blood of the livestock he killed, sometimes even keeping them alive long enough to make people watch with disbelief as he bit away the animal's flesh and ripped out their innards. He was a large son of a bitch, 4.5 meters in length. His jaws were massive and lined with thousands of razor-sharp teeth as big as butcher's knives. His hide was thick, preventing man's weapons from penetrating it. At one time, though, a crafty hunter went to Two-Toed Tom in the darkest of night and placed 2 sticks of dynamite underneath his colossal claws. By the time old Two-Toed Tom stirred awake, his hand was torn up by a mighty explosion. His fingers were blown sky high. I even think 2 of them were blasted up to space, and may as well be on the moon as we speak. In his pain, he set his sight on the hunter and swore that he would make him pay dearly. If that was the end of the story, I'd have very much to say that Two-Toed Tom died from the blood loss. But my friend, this was not the end of it. The alligator always shook off attacks with ease. No one had managed to harm him in his long existence. He always prided himself in the fear he represented. But now he was knocked down a few pegs. He was now in the same field as mere mortals. That enraged him. It came to a head one day when the hunter's youngest boy, Timothy Meyer, went missing. He was being taken care of by his older sister, but she'd dozed off during the day. Little Timothy traversed to the edge of the pond's bank to catch the tadpoles that were born after the melting of the past winter's frost. The hunter came in asking his daughter where his son was. That was when a scream rang out, sending the 2 dashing towards the pond. The pond was stained a crimson red. On the surface of the water, the hunter and the daughter gasped in shock, for little Timothy's body had been bitten in half, upper body floating on the surface, with an expression of absolute terror. Spikes breached the surface of the water alongside 2 red eyes. Two-Toed Tom reared up in the water, the lower half of Timothy's body being firmly gripped in his jaws. Blood gushed down Two-Toed Tom's cheeks as he bared a sinister grin.
"I told you I'd make you pay."
The hunter, in anger, grabbed rocks lining the bank of the pond and chucked the rocks at the accursed alligator in blind fury. But the reptile had already escaped. Word circulated through the town that Two-Toed Tom took a human life like wildfire. Unlike alligators who would rather leave you be, Two-Toed Tom developed a taste for human blood, but killed out of the sheer joy behind it rather than for necessity. Women were known to venture into the swamps for most reasons. One named Daisy O'Connell, who was the town's gossip. She had a pretty face that old Tom decided she'd look better off without. He bit her head off in one go and chewed it to paste between his massive teeth. Her fellow gossip clique discovered her decaying body at the entrance of the swamp. She was splayed out like how some hunters would mount their kills to show off their hunting skills. The group of 5 women who made up the clique met with grisly fates not too long afterward. One woman's body was found in her bathtub, completely stripped of her skin, reduced to a chunk of meat. Trails of 2-toed footprints served as Two-Toed Tom's calling card, and sometimes he would deliberately set up trails to let people know that he was around. The hunter became overcome with the paranoia of the raging mass hysteria the lizard wrought. Parents were having their children follow strict curfews to keep them from going towards any bodies of water. Even the bathtub was considered unsafe, as witnesses have claimed to have seen him waddling in the water, staring his victims down, anticipating that they'd enter the water. The hunter became obsessed with killing the beast regardless of the costs. He boarded his remaining children in the house, going as far to remove them from school. Water became scarce in the house due to the hunter, and his paranoia, deciding to cut the water off to keep Two-Toed Tom from entering through the pipes. It fell in his responsibility to provide the family with fresh water that he got by boiling it. It remained like this until one day when he was far from home on important business duty. His eldest daughter was babysitting her siblings. She began to have one of her sleeping pills, and as she was drifting off to sleep, a knock at the door shook her awake. She went to the door, suspicion crossing her mind.
Let me in. Let me in.
A deep, gravelly voice bellowed out.
"Who is this?"
she asked.
A family friend.
The voice announced, now sounding less human. The knocking on the door was now harder. A low growl resonated from the person on the other side of the door, one of agitation. Whoever was on the other side lightly tapped on the door with their fingers, but even the soft tapping sounded off. The person's fingernails sounded long and hollow.
"My daddy said he'd be gone until 5 o'clock,
the daughter proclaimed. The tapping stopped. A dreaded silence filled the air. The visitor growled lowly before talking again.
I work for your daddy.
"You do?"
the daughter said, her eyebrows raised.
He was working one of the cotton gins and got his arm ripped off.
The visitor breathed slowly.
He's in grave harm.
The daughter became bewildered. Despite her father's warnings, she loosened the bolts on the door and opened it. She shrieked when her eyes met the sulfuric flames of Two-Toed Tom's eyes. The house was filled with waves of screaming and struggling. By the time the hunter returned home, blood filled the floors along with the mangled bodies of the hunter's children. On the wall was a message carved into it. "I told you I'd make you pay." With nothing left to lose, the hunter grabbed his ammo and all the dynamite he could get his fingers on. He traveled to the swamp, which was now decorated with dozens of the dreaded lizard's trophies. What happened next was anybody's guess. There was a rapid succession of explosions with gunpowder filling the air and flowing to the old town. The hunter and Two-Toed Tom were never seen again. No bodies were ever found. Rumor has it that they both may as well have been blown to kingdom come. The hunter may as well could be continuing his fight with Two-Toed Tom on his home terrain. Whatever the case, the string of murders ceased for a few years until just recently. The oddest thing about this, though, is that at midnight, I can often hear the light tapping in my pipes, accompanied by a low chuckle. I sometimes even see red eyes following me throughout my house.